why don't you share your faith? Some of the most common objections I've heard again and again to this question are things like, I don't know enough about the Bible, I didn't go to seminary, I haven't been a Christian long enough, or what if I get it wrong and look silly? And because of these answers, many Christians feel that their kind actions alone can be enough then to help people know about their faith and come to know God. And don't get me wrong, it's not a words versus action debate that we're having here, but rather a both and type of situation. In this video, I want to look at one of the most powerful tools I guarantee that you have, you just might not know that you do, to help every single one of us be able to be better at sharing our faith with others, teaching them who God is and about our faith, and open the doors for better spiritual conversation. That's coming up right after this. Okay, so jumping right in, I know we will have many people with different experiences when it comes to talking about their faith or the Bible, and the results will vary. I would love to hear your tips or stories about it down in the comment section below, and I might just feature it in my next video, like this one here from Deucin. Thanks, by the way, man. If you want to know the context to that whole video, check out the video in the link right up there. But speaking of your stories, that's actually what I want to talk about today. See, stories are one, if not the most powerful tool you and I have when we want to connect with others. Good stories inspire, relate, and challenge the listener. It can captivate an audience and help them to understand the truth and reality of our world. The truth is, we are story-driven people. Whether it's when we're hanging out with a group of friends, waiting to see how this guy met the mother, understanding a galaxy far, far away, or learning how people change the real or fictional world with their actions. Heck, even if you want to consider buying a new service or product on Amazon, you don't have to scroll down too far to see personal stories and reviews about the product in question. We all love stories. Good stories reward your time and feel like you spent that well investing in these things. And also, we understand that when stories are bad, they leave us feeling disgruntled, maybe even annoyed for wasting our time and money. But what does this have to do with our video here today? Well, the truth and reality is that each and every one of us has a faith story. We are part of God's story, and you and I are on our own spiritual journey of growing in faith and maturity in Him. And as we just mentioned, stories are a powerful way to connect the truth with other people. This isn't just my opinion, by the way. This is what Scripture actually calls us to do when we engage with others. It says this, "But in your heart, honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect." Your defense and reason should be found in your faith story. Another word the Bible uses to show us that we should be doing this is by calling us to be a witness to the truth. Much like a person who saw a crime would share what they saw would be considered a witness, and their story is then considered a testimony, that is their account of what took place. That is what you and I are going to be working on today, our testimony of God's goodness in our lives and the reason for why we believe. There are other ways to prepare and make a defense with apologetics, but that's for another video if we want to do that subject justice. So the challenge today then becomes not just being able to tell a story, but a good, powerful story. Often I think people might hear that and have some negative connotations with the idea of telling a story. Maybe they might associate with a lie or making something up completely. But that's not what we're talking about here. We don't want to lie in our story, and I'll get to why that is here in just a bit. But we do want to be good at our craft of storytelling and be able to have a 15, 10, 5, and 1 minute version of our story. Now, for my introverts here that may hear that and just have a hard time just talking to people in social situations already, don't count yourself out just yet. These tips are here in this video. They will help you be more confident in your storytelling. And for my extroverts out there, or people that just already love to share and tell stories, this video and these tips will hopefully help you to focus your story to a single story with a powerful, narrow message that can encourage and inspire others to get in the Word and grow in their relationship with God. This actually leads right into our first step, and that is your story should be focused, concise, and have a clear landing point. Ask yourself, what do I want my listeners to know and get and understand when all of this is said and done? Or what is just the point of this story? These are two great questions to ask yourself when you're getting started. A common problem people face when trying to tell their story or their testimony is they try to fit everything that has ever happened to them relating to their faith all into one story, making the task at hand feel very overwhelming to the storyteller trying to stay within a time limit, and the actual presentation of that story being very confusing or jarring and just underwhelming, to say the least, becoming a spiderweb of mixed and matched stories with no real direction or connection and not building really to anything. So the way we fix this is by asking these questions and relieving ourselves of the tension of having to explain our entire life and faith story in 10 to 15 minutes and just share one important experience from our faith. A good starting point is to start with your coming to faith story. Answering the question in your story, how did you have a real, genuine relationship with God? This is great because it helps give our story direction and helps us to stay focused on the message and be concise with our story that is actually building to something. In this example, it is our coming to Jesus moment. Now, for those that grew up in a Christian home or a faith home, this might feel harder to do because you feel like you just always grew up hearing and believing these things. But your story matters a lot because there are many people who have a very similar struggle and can relate to you in wondering if their faith is really their own or if they really believe this for themselves. So your story can and should include these elements if that is a part of your journey. While it might not feel as big or flashy as a story about someone who's an ex-drug addict or ex-convict finding Jesus in their jail cell, in your mind, your story matters and can reach and relate to people that these stories never could. Focus your story then around when and how you really knew your faith was your own. What or who helped you to be confident that your faith was your own? What did you learn from that? What changed in your perspective that helped you understand that it really was your own? For those like myself that didn't come from a Christian home, explain what your life was like before you knew God and what your understanding of God was. Tip number 2 is that we want to be consistent. Imagine how weird it would have been to have a laugh track during this moment.
I am the Father.
When there is good source material that a movie and book tries to borrow and take from, but it is completely inconsistent with it, this could really make a movie bad, like some of these guys. It feels like it doesn't respect the source material at all and misses the point of the character or messaging completely. In much of the same way, our story needs to be consistent, not just with itself, but with the one we are actually trying to point people to. Because we want our story to be consistent with what the Bible has to say about God and our life. Now, we aren't turning these testimonies into mini sermons with 3-point alliterations, but we also don't want to be claiming in our testimony that God is calling us to kill our annoying neighbor or divorce our spouse just because we don't like them anymore. Because clearly those types of things are against what the Bible teaches. In much of the same way, we don't want to make God someone in our own image, just making him who we want God to be. What we need to do is come under the Bible and allow it to speak and talk about God and make sure our story is consistent with his word. Otherwise, we end up like some of these guys. Yeah, please don't do that. Tip number 3, think of your story in phases using this narrative structure here that every book and movie uses. You start with having your base. This is your starting point, where you were before you really knew God. Answer questions like we said about what you thought God was like before that. Maybe the things that you were into, both good and bad, and your family background. This is all setting up and answering the question who you are. Speak to any issue you had. Maybe it was knowing if your faith was real or dealing with strict or absent parents and how that affected your view of God. After that, there is the call to action, something that happened in your life that caused you to seek out the answer on if God was real or not, or at the very least, moves you out of your comfort zone. In movies like Finding Nemo, this is Marlin having to leave the safety of his home, or Carl trying to fulfill a lifelong dream after losing his wife, Ellie. So what moved you out of your comfort zone and into the unknown? This in turn caused you and led you to maybe have to learn something for yourself or from somebody else. Maybe this was done by actually reading the Bible for yourself or having a conversation with somebody, or just because of the personal situation that you were in. Either way, you were searching, and in that searching, you realized that there was real conflict. Maybe that conflict is realizing you might lose family members or friends because of your faith or the money issues that you were facing. This could lead to some real challenges, temptations, or even your lowest point. All this is part of the tension of your story. The final part then is the resolution. How did these things get resolved? How was God the answer to those issues that you were facing? Maybe a verse or a message or a talk that you had with somebody helped make it all click for you in that moment. Maybe because of now knowing God, you were able to let go of the hurt or anger that you were feeling and you were finally able to give it over to God. Or maybe you realized that you really weren't alone after all, but were truly loved by God. The resolution should also speak about how that changed you and your understanding of who God is. And then that loops all back to your base. Now having learned a lesson about God, yourself, or your faith, ready to start the next adventure. The ending of your story matters a lot. A ton of great movies with great premises and characters were ruined because of a bad ending. And really, that's all people remember these movies for now. So don't skip out and make sure you put effort into your ending. Hopefully, these 3 tips help you to shape a better, more powerful story that points people back to God and not to ourselves. That's never the point of our testimony. We are called to be a witness to the truth, so giving account to God's faithfulness and goodness in our life is essential and easy with a little preparation and practice. So take time today, practice right now, and share your story down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear and know your story. If you enjoy this video, make sure to leave it a like, and if you aren't subscribed already, make sure to do that, because once we cross 1,000 subscribers, we will be doing a 24-hour stream raising money for some really great causes for kids in need. So help us to help others. And if you like these tips, make sure to check out this video right over here, where we talk about how to grow your faith even more by doing this one simple thing that has been proven by studies to be very effective. And make sure to check out this one down here that YouTube thinks you actually will really like. But until next time, guys, know that you are valued and loved. I'll see you soon.